Hi guys, for this video we are going to make an experiment which is entitled Cyclone in a Bottle. So for our experiment we use two bottles, two 1.5 bottles, and masking tape, water with food coloring. Also we have here stopwatch to time our cyclones. Okay, let's start. Let's swirl the water. So it took us 7.92 seconds to drain the water. So let's see what will happen if we don't swirl the water. So it took us 16 seconds to drain the water. Now let's move on to our observation part. Let us start with the first setup, the setup with swirl. First, what happened? As I swirl the water, it creates a whirlpool and it accelerated the draining process of the bottle at the bottom. Second, how long did the water take to drain to the bottom bottle? As I mentioned earlier, it took me only 7.92 seconds to drain the water to the bottom due to the accelerating effect of the swirling. Next, describe how the cyclone look. The cyclone looks like a swaying tunnel made of water because it creates a hole which is connected to the other bottle. Next, record any other interesting observations or findings. Another observation that I saw is that as I swirl the water, it flows to the bottom smoothly and fast without creating much sound. Now let's move on to the last setup which I did not swirl. First question, what happened this time? When I did not swirl the water, it did not make a vortex, but instead it creates a bubbling sound as bubbles with air continues to go upward and creates the noise. Next, how long did the water take to drain this time? It took me 16 seconds to drain the water, which took longer time to drain to the bottom compared to whirling the bottle. Last question, describe what the water looked like this time and how it was different to the first experiment. You can use label diagrams to show the differences. The water this time is different in a way that it doesn't have a vortex just like the first setup. Instead of vortex, it only has a continuous bubble of air that kept on rising and creates sound. Now let's move on to the information part. First question, what is the difference between a cyclone, typhoon, and hurricane? Hurricanes, cyclones, and typhoons are all types of tropical storms. But what's the difference between them? Well, they are basically the same thing, but are given different names depending on where they appear. Hurricanes are tropical storms that form over the North Atlantic Ocean and Northeast Pacific. Cyclones are formed over the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, while on the other hand, typhoons are formed over the Northwest Pacific Ocean. Second, describe what a typhoon is. A typhoon is a type of large storm system having a circular or spiral system of violent winds, typically hundreds of kilometers or miles in diameter. The winds spiral around a region of low atmospheric pressure. Typhoon is the name of these storms that occur in the Western Pacific. Third, explain the tropical cyclone categories. Tropical cyclone are classified as follows. First, tropical depression. A tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of 38 miles per hour, 33 knots or less. Second, tropical storm. A tropical cyclone with a maximum sustained winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour or 34 to 63 knots. Third, hurricane. A tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of 74 miles per hour, 64 knots or higher. In the western North Pacific, hurricanes are called typhoons. Similar storms in the Indian Ocean and South Pacific are called cyclones. Major hurricane. A tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of 111 miles per hour, 96 knots or higher, corresponding to a category 3, 4, or 5 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Infer why the Philippines is prone to typhoons. The Philippines is prone to tropical cyclone due to its geographical location. The Philippines is located just above the equator. The Philippines faces the western Pacific without much else in the way to take the force of storms before they make landfall. Those warm equatorial waters power storms about 20 typhoons a year. Fifth, what are the different typhoon categories in the Philippines? The classification of tropical cyclones according to the strength of the associated wind as adopted by Pag-asa as of 1 May of 2015 are as follows. First, tropical depression. A tropical cyclone with maximum sustained winds of up to 61 kilometers per hour or less than 33 nautical miles per hour or knots. Second, tropical storm. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed of 62 to 88 km per hour or 34 to 47 knots. Third, severe tropical storm. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed of 89 to 117 km per hour, 48 to 63 knots. Next, typhoon. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed of 118 to 220 km per hour or 64 to 120 knots. Lastly, super typhoon. A tropical cyclone with maximum wind speed exceeding 220 km per hour or more than 120 knots.